An addendum to your word as law is that words cast spells and words have power. Our use of language in whatever language that you speak, words have power. They cast spells. Now, if anyone needed to understand that in a metaphorical sense or in a realistic sense, in an everyday sense, when you read a book that's a fictional book or you read a non-fiction book, but often, I don't know what your experience is, but when I'm reading a book, especially a fictitious book that I'm really into, when I'm reading that book, the spell is being cast for me, and I'm visualizing and seeing the environments, the characters, the art, the story arc manifesting in my head. I'm seeing it all. That's a spell being cast on me, and I'm immersed in this world by the spell being cast on me as I'm reading this book. If it's a non-fiction book, if I'm reading facts, often that spell can be quite difficult to interpret, like a lot of information that I'm reading at the moment on quantum mechanics in regards to a book by Dr. Joseph P. Farrell called The Giza Death Star and the paleophysics in that book is well over my head, but at the same time it's casting a spell over me because it's taking me to a place where I'm beginning to understand the nature of his interpretation of this location and of these monumental buildings that are on this plateau in Giza, and seeing them as being something very different to what Egyptologists detailing them as being. But the spell is being cast through the words that he's using and the information that he's presenting to me. Words have power. Words have power and words cast spells. So we have to be very, in my perception, we have to be very mindful of the use of words, how we use them. Because if we use our words in a way that creates limitation in our life, like I can't do that, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy of this experience, and you can say, you don't have to say those words with directly. You can use words that have this contain and convey the same emotional content behind it, behind the statement that you make. But those words are cast out into the unified field, and then therefore by saying these words and by feeling the feeling that goes along with those words, you are casting a spell energetically, verbally, and by doing that, you're creating limitation in your life. Or you can flip the other side of that coin and create abundance in your life through your use of words mindfully. So when I'm writing my books, I'm very mindful of the words that I use. And so often I'll use words that really I find that are so unique that I've never heard before. I'll look them up in the dictionary, or I'll go through a thesaurus and find a word that I've never seen before, I've never used before, and go, that word will cast a spell as someone reads that. And that will draw them into a place where they'll begin to look at the world and reframe the world in a very different way if they choose to look at the meaning of that word or choose to use it themselves in their vocabulary. But also in the way that I use words in regards to my books and the books that I've published. I use words that cast a spell through poetry and prose together, amalgamated in a way that really, in my perception, draws the reader in to a place where they begin to manifest in their mind and begin to truly live the life. They're actually assimilating into the pages, into the story arc, into the characters in a way that is unique and powerful, and in a way that also goes beyond what most authors, in my perception anyway, have written in the way that they cast spells to the use of language in their books and in their prose. And part of that for me is like the beginning of writing my chapters and my short stories is the use of poetry. When I use poetry, it's like I'm casting a spell over you. When you read that book, when you read that first chapter, when you read that short story, you read the poem first, and that poem casts a spell on you. Gives you the synopsis of what's happening in that book. Gives you, that chapter or that short story. that spell is cast on you. And if you are taken in by that spell it's cast on you, then you are able to assimilate into the rest of that story arc, of that short story, of that chapter. And each chapter takes you into that journey deeper and gives you more of a visceral experience as you're reading my books that I've written. And that was definitely part of my mission and my my decision to write, and one of the reasons why I wrote. And I was inspired to do this by reading Clive Barker, his books, especially his early works, were for me that were like casting spells over me in a way that I've never been put under that spell before by an author. And I was inspired to do that myself, and to take from the master, as in Clive Barker, to me, the master, to be inspired to find a way to do it myself. My own unique spin on that, by channeling parts of myself, my multidimensional self from other levels of existence, to collaborate with me to create these books that I've created and written, but to cast those spells. But that goes beyond my books. It goes well beyond my books. It's our use of everyday language too, to be mindful of the way we use our words. And that's where affirmations come in. For me, like for example, one of the affirmations that I use is a daily prayer, which I got from the book called A Path of Empowerment by Barbara Marciniak, who channels the Pleiadians. And my daily prayer that I start the meditation is this: I am a creator. I am here to create a safe and bountiful life. Through vibration and frequency, I choose to be healthy, productive, and wise. I know that a multitude of probabilities and belief systems exist side by side with mine. In mine I am safe. In mine I am guided. In mine I love and trust my body. In mine I know my cells are precognitive, and that I am a co-creator of the multiverse. I know that I will receive the signs, signals, impulses, and guidance that I require to always be at the right place at the right time, for my highest good and for all of those around me. Not only do I say this, I feel it intently. And with that feeling, that resonance goes out into the unified field, and it brings back at me experiences that reflect back at me the very words that I put out into the unified field to cast that spell. And that's how I write my books. That's how I write my poetry. To cast a spell. Not in a negative way or in a way that would be limiting anyone's perception of reality, or limiting their ability to express themselves in a way that would be confining them to their ability to experience reality at the fullest. On the contrary, to open up their minds and their hearts, to elucidate, to entertain, and to educate people, if they choose to be and experience all of those experiences. Thanks for watching. I truly appreciate it. Mā te wā. I'll see you again soon.